Hello, I have a special guest today, my husband Aaron, and he's going to teach us all about pivot tables.
All right, guys, so pivot tables. Pivot tables are great when you have a table or some data and you want to quickly summarize or find out information. So here I've got a bunch of students with their major, their quiz scores, and their final exam scores. And what I want to do is compare how well, let's say, design majors did versus management majors versus accounting majors on their quizzes and final exams. Now, one way I could do that is just to sort the data and then calculate all the averages for each individual major and then create a table from scratch, and that would take me like 10 minutes. Or I could just create a pivot table, and that'll take about a minute. So to do a pivot table, first you want to go to the Insert tab up in your ribbon. Right here to the far left, you'll see Pivot Table. When you click that pivot table, you're going to get the Create Pivot Table box here. Excel is pretty smart. Typically can figure out what the data is you want. In this case, it selected the correct data. Now you have a choice of putting it either in a new worksheet or putting it in the current one. I always like to put it in a new worksheet, but that's kind of up to you. So we're going to put it in the new worksheet. When I click OK, this is what you're going to get. You do all your work on a pivot table over in this pane here on the right. And so since I want to look at things based on major, that's the first category I'm going to deal with. I'm going to put a check in major. You'll notice it puts it down here in the rows. Now I can choose to either display it by rows, or if I prefer, I could push it over, drag it over here to columns and look at it as columns. Now that's just kind of a personal preference. I like it in rows, so I'm going to put it back into rows. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out, well, how many of each major do I have in this class? How many accounting students do I have? How many design students do I have? So what I'm going to do is grab the major again, and I'm going to drag it down into values, because now we're worried about numbers or values. And when I do that, it's going to give me a count of each one of the majors, tell me how many is in each accounting major, BIS, design, etc. Now what I want to do is I want to look at the average quiz scores. So I'm going to put a check in that. It's going to put it down here in values, but you'll notice it's not giving me an average, it's giving me a sum. So to change that, I have to click this drop down arrow, select value field settings. You'll notice there's a lot of options here. I can use count, average, max, minimum. I want the average, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, put OK. Now we'll go ahead and get the final exam score in there, and I'm going to put a check in that. It'll bring that down here. Again, it's going to give me the sum of the final exam, and I don't want that, so we'll have to do that same process again. Click on value field settings and then select average. Now once we do that, I can do our normal kind of formatting of data. I'll go ahead and take these, go to my home tab, we'll go ahead and just make them numbers, right? And now I can see I've got everything sorted by major from A to Z, and it shows me the average quiz score, shows me the average final exam score. Now I could, if I wanted to, change this filtering. If I go here, it's only going to allow me to filter by column A, which is the major. But if I select more sort options, right, and I come down here and I've got this ascending or descending, let's say I want to look at it by average final exam score from highest to lowest. So I would click descending, and instead of major, I would click the drop down, and I would say do it by average final exam score, and then it would arrange it and show me which majors got the highest final exam score.